Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of the Weekly Boost podcast. As always, I'm your co-host, Austin, and I'm joined by Ben.
Hello.
This week, we do not have a special guest for you. However, we are going to be talking about some pretty cool things going on in our lives. A recent trip that I had to go visit Ben down in Oklahoma, as well as just some day-to-day stuff that we've been talking about recently that we thought that you guys might want to listen to as well. So hopefully you enjoy, and just to preface a little bit, make sure you guys are keeping up with, we still have our merch website up. So if you guys are interested in that, check that out. It helps us as well as it gives you guys a good way to support us in something that, besides listening and watching. So we appreciate all that have purchased anything. But without further ado, we'll get into the content of this week's episode.
I like your merch you got going on there.
Yeah, don't you like it? Speaking of supporting and buying merch, I have yet to do so. So I got to do a little bit of practicing what I preach. But this will work for now. It's a new limited edition, one of one. It's called the Post-it Button Up. It's not in stores, so don't try buying it. But if you guys are jealous, maybe we'll make something in the future with the Post-it note. But
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. We got 3 different kind of designs, and again, that's another thing that we just jumped into, and it's been fun to try to get that rolling. But yeah, I think it's funny. We haven't really we've talked about this off the air, but off the air, I like this big show. We haven't gotten to a point where we were episodes ahead of what we were doing. It was always okay, let's do it Thursday and then get it out on Monday. This is the first time that we're talking about something that happened 3 weeks ago.
2 or 3 weeks ago.
2 or 3 weeks ago. But I think it's really beneficial to talk about it, and hopefully people can take things from it. So like Austin said, he was preparing, and you saw if you follow us, you saw the episode with Matt Donovan. It's on YouTube, and you can see that we were together. And I thought it was a fun trip for as little as we could actually do. When we went and got takeout, it's you see people at the bars. It's we're almost there. You know what I mean? For us that have kind of been taking that seriously. But again, I think it was one of those trips that kind of it served 2 purposes for me. One, it was nice to catch up with you in person and get a podcast out and really brainstorm more about what we want to do. It's so much. There's only so much you can do on FaceTime and Zoom. I think that does it justice. Sure. And I know we started this as a kind of a way to stay in touch, and I think we have using this platform. But at the same time, being able to bounce ideas off each other and get more material. And I think that's what this episode is. I'll get into the second part of what it did. It reaffirmed that I appreciate, 1, where I'm at, the school and the institution, and 2, I guess this goes along with it, but it made me be more grateful for what I have here, because you were here, and the first full day, because you got in pretty late on Friday night. The first full day when I kind of took you on the, what did you say? You said
nickel tour.
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah, you like that one.
In that call the other day, the nickel tour, Norman, let's say.
Yep.
And you're this is so cool. This is so cool. This is the amount of times you said cool, I think, is just astronomical.
It's my new buzzword. You know how we say perspective a lot and trying to explain who we are. Cool. Astronomical. The amount of references I can use the word cool to, it's just.
If you saw, we posted on social media a little bit, but there was the great reading room. Just there's so much history in some of these places and buildings that unfortunately we weren't able to go in a lot of them because they were closed because of the break. But you gain this I'm not going to say it. You gain this new outlook on what you have in front of you, and I think that's a really good resurgence for me moving forward into this semester. It's because sometimes when you get stuck, and this is the whole complacency thing, when you get stuck with the same thing every day, or you're looking at the same thing, you don't appreciate it as much. And Cassidy talked about that last week, and you don't realize what's in front of you, and sometimes it takes that little exercise. And not saying that you had to come down here for me to be oh, my campus is cool, but seeing someone else appreciate what you have too in front of you makes you realize that it's something. And I mean, I'll let you get into this, but like you, we joked, you know, you fell in love with Ripon when you toured it. Is the only one you toured, but I'm sorry. And you fell in love with, you know, OU. And I think that's you being excited about school and what the institution can represent.
Yeah. I think for sure that's exactly it.
Yeah. So I think that was one, thanks for, you know, taking in everything and coming down here. I think it was a fun time.
Yeah. Well, and you kind of said that the trip served as a dual purpose event for you, right? Like a resurgency and your passion for the place you're at, but also, you know, a good way to get the ball rolling on some projects with our, you know, podcast, our little adventure that we're trying to get, you know, a bunch of steam rolling for it. And for me, first of all, I love driving. I'll never not like it. I don't know why. I hate the people on the road sometimes. Like it irks me. I don't think anybody loves driving with traffic. If you do, then hit me up because tell me how the hell to deal with it. I don't know how to do that. Like I just don't get it. But yeah, literally, but it's 14 hours nonstop. I don't know how you could do that either, but 16 and a half hours there and 16 and a half hours back serves a lot of time for you to reflect and figure out what you want to accomplish, not only on the trip, but just in life or in that, you know, short period of time that, you know, the anticipation is building for that trip, as well as just figuring out who you are like as a person. And not many people, I don't think, like look for a long drive to sort of accomplish those tasks. But for me, it gave me a chance to kind of break away from my routine and find myself again, as cliche as that sounds. Sometimes it takes a little trip like that to do that for you. And I feel like it did. You said it best. Like I fell in love with OU when I walked on campus. There was something about a feeling of community that you can feel from there, from like the architecture of the buildings to the, you know, the enduring support for their football team, as well as the many other sporting clubs and teams that they have there. And, you know, listeners, Ben and I are retired athletes. We try to keep in shape, but we enjoy and we honor that community of athletes because we were a part of that and we know what that means. And that was a strong sense there. It's a Division I school for almost, I think, I don't want to be wrong on this, but I think almost every club sport, or not club sport, but every sport that's on campus offered is Division I, or at least
pretty sure
private club that's affiliated with Division I. And so, I mean, for me, that's different. I've never seen that part of the culture. And you can obviously tell with funding and all that sort of stuff. But just when we walked by the stadium and stuff like that, or when we walked by the baseball field and just that sense of community with that, it kind of, I don't know, it made me grateful for my time as an athlete, I guess, because like I know people cry, sweat, and bleed to try to get to that position of being able to play at the Division I or professional level. And so it was just another step in that direction for me to see like, okay, this could have happened or this couldn't have happened, whatever. But another thing that I fell in love with is I've never been a part of a college town. That vibe, that aesthetic, right? Like my first night we went to a restaurant, well, not a restaurant, but a little sub shop called Pickleman's. And like, for those who listen that are in the Wisconsin area or wherever you are in your little small hometown or college town or whatever, you know what the vibe that I'm talking about, where there's like a little downtown boardwalk type deal, where there's little shops, little restaurants that all somehow affiliate with the college atmosphere. And that feeling of, again, community within a community, it takes precedent there. Like it resides in that area. And like the schools that I've been to, Ripon and St. Norbert, I'm not saying the college is the biggest part of those cities, but there isn't much around the campus besides the campus in the city. So yes, it's a college town in the definition because everything revolves around the campus, but there's not that sense of feeling, especially like the Division I campus town. Like UWO does a good job of doing that because UWO and Oshkosh, I think that's a pretty close college town aesthetic that I'm used to. Same with, you know, Madison and that area. Like that's
State Street,
like State Street, like all those things that
I
are
feel like they're
with the college.
Yeah, there's got to be that like place. Like that like hangout. So like in Madison, State Street, we'll make that example. And here
Yeah.
it's Campus Corner on
Yeah.
Asp. It's interesting with Ripon. I think there Main Street has kind of it was it like on the top 100 like registries for historic downtowns or something like that.
It's up there.
So like there's that aspect to it, but you're right. It's synonymous with Ripon, like the college. I think
so. Yeah.
But like you said, it's nothing like a game days in Ripon are a little different than game days in Norman.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And
I feel that. And like when I was there, I could sense that. Like we were there during a break. Like, the semesters had ended. We're in this little period where everybody gets to either go home, relax, or whatever. And even then you could feel that sense.
Mm-hmm.
And well, for those of you that have listened to previous episodes and like have listened to my passions, academia is something that I'm extremely passionate about. And for example, my favorite building, I think by far, was the library. Not only was it the building that we were able to go through the most, but it was, again, a reassurance that what I want to do as a scientist or as an academic and a scholar is still important to me. And it made me more passionate, and it made me more assured that what I'm doing is what I want to do. And like you were saying, the reading room, like
the
you walk into that building, it literally is the Hogwarts dining room where they decide. I don't know Harry Potter. I'm sorry if I'm butchering this, but like where they decide what
house they go to.
Yeah, what house they go to. Like that's what it felt like, and it was a magnificent and powerful feeling. Among the other feelings that I was feeling when I was there too.
You mentioned like the architecture, the Cherokee Gothic, and that really stands out to be uniquely OU. And there's a stone on the outside of the library that we walked past, and it says the spirit of learning is a lasting frontier.
Yep.
And I think that kind of sums it up for you is however difficult academia is to get into, the lack of job security, like all of that stuff is really, really, like, especially in my like field, that's really like daunting for me. And we'll get into it in the latter half of this episode, but like that's scary in and of itself. But I think this idea of learning and kind of what you're talking about doesn't need to go away because you aren't in a job where you are required to learn, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean? Like you have to keep discovering things or keep, researching something. And for you, it's STEM. So that is always going to be, or should be at the forefront of what we're doing, because whether it's expanding life expectancy or curing diseases or just finding out how else the world works, I think that's a super important thing. And if you argue that, like I don't really see the substance there, but on the other hand, like the humanities is something that if we keep learning about the past and learning how that affects us, because without learning about the past, how do we know what we're doing with us? And
importantly, how to prevent the past from happening.
Exactly. Making the same mistakes as a society shouldn't be. I think as a race, as a human race as a whole, like you shouldn't be making the same mistakes. You should be able to move forward. But regardless, like the funding for that, and we talked about it, is just like diminishing, like rapidly, like grants and things like that. And, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to get a grant to keep learning is what I'm trying to say. And I think that is a reminder, walking on campus, seeing that it's a good reminder to realize what you have in front of you and that you are in control. Why did I say you like that? You are you are in control of your own learning path. And if you choose to keep learning every day, then you're going to be experienced over age.
There you go.
No, you were, I'll transition here. You were joking. You didn't have a bad meal while you're here. And that includes some of our cooking. So I mean,
without a doubt.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, it was, there is a style of cooking that I found to love in these past couple of years of just knowing who I am. And it's that Southwest traditional, a little bit of spice, diverse flavors, diverse vegetation in your meal. Like, I don't know. I've expanded my palate pretty good since, probably since I've hit like 20. Before then I was a little more picky, not like picky in the sense where I wouldn't eat something, but
chicken
just like,
nuggies.
Yeah, like not that, like no way. I've learned to appreciate, diverse
Mhm.
cuisines. And when I was down in Oklahoma, I'm not discrediting cooking at all, like what we did in the kitchen, but my favorite by far was going to the Collective and the fried taco stand. Like, I have
That
never had more fresh tacos or more just delicious tacos. And I'm a big Southwest, authentic Mexican and Latin American cuisine kind of connoisseur. Like, I like that. That's like my go-to. And those were right up my alley. And let me tell you, the blueberry hot sauce,
salsa. Yeah.
or ooh,
Yeah.
that'll get your chest burning a little bit.
I don't know how we came across it. I think so we had gone to OKC one of the first times. And we're like, well, we got to find some place that's, authentic to OKC, meaning like unique there. And we were going around and we saw this like Collective Kitchen. And for those of you that don't know, we'll tag it when we drop this episode or whatever. But it's just like a upper scale food court is what I would compare it to. There's
separate from a mall. There's nothing else around it.
It's like its own separate building. And like I said, I'll tag it so you can see there's like outdoor dining and there's rooftop dining and there's a bar in there. There's a coffee shop. There's a salad place, really good like waffles.
There's sub-Saharan African cuisine. I don't know if you mentioned that.
Nope, not yet. There's cheesesteak. There's a fried taco, and then there's the Hawaiian that I just had last weekend. I don't know if there's any more in there, but it's just like a really cool hangout in Midtown there in OKC. And we had the fried taco, and I mean, they fry their corn tortillas, and it's a unique taco. So it's not your traditional crunchy taco, because I'm not a huge fan of those.
No, it's not. Trust me, it's not no taco.
But it's really good. They have like Nashville hot chicken tacos.
Did I get like the
Southwest
jerk adobo?
No, you get the jerk chicken.
The jerk and the Nashville hot, and like I like Nashville hot stuff. Like we had Nashbird chicken.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that too.
So like I kind of like that flavor, and nothing beats a good chicken sandwich. A spicy chicken sandwich, and so like figuring that out. But the jerk chicken taco is probably a top 3 food that I've ever had in my entire life. Like it was pretty darn good, and so we highly recommend. We're not sponsored by the Collective, but if you're ever in OKC in Midtown, please stop by, because it's got great when things start to settle down again, and not settle down, but when we start to be able to figure our stuff out and get back to the swing of what we consider normal reality. It's a great place. We had some great discussions. Some great stories were exchanged. And so
there's heaters and stuff outside. There's a fire pit, and it's it's on this corner. I don't know the streets offhand, but we sat out there for a while. It was really nice. And when we went this past weekend, it was 65, and it was really windy. But like we were outside eating, and it's being from Wisconsin, eating outside in the end of January, the last weekend of January, would not be on my. I was talking to my professor yesterday when I had a meeting, and she's like, "Yeah, the people here, like the winters are great, but people here don't like appreciate how nice it is in the winter. Like the summers are really hot, and I'm not really looking forward to that. But when I hear that my parents just got 8 inches of snow, you kind of
when you go like
you're like, I had the windows open last night.
Don't. Well, and one of the things that I guess really hit home with me with this trip was, don't get me wrong, for the longest time I don't think that I ever had plans to visit OKC up until you living around that area, right? And so it just, for me, it went to show that there are places in this country, all over this country, that have that unique feeling, that sense of community, that sense of new adventure. And like we've been big proponents of, if you set your mind to something and you want to go do it, you should go and do it. And for the longest time, I've been a big proponent of also the national parks and wanting to go do those things. And so it was not like the first jump, right? Not like the first like initial trip that I took to kind of get my feet wet in the traveling thing, but it made me realize that, like, as cliche as it sounds, adventure is out there. I don't know whose slogan that is. I'm sorry if I'm taking
it's from Up, dude.
Oh my god,
adventure is out there. Yeah, that's you.
But it's like I would have never have gone to OKC or Norman. I'm not saying like visiting you guys was like the main reason of that, but it's just sometimes it's just good to set your mind to something and manifest it
Just
and
do
go and
it.
do it. Yeah, just
Yeah.
do it. And I just do. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good first step to make sure you can handle driving,
Yeah,
for 12 hours by
31
yourself.
hours round trip.
Yeah.
That's a
Um,
pretty hefty one. I'm not gonna lie, especially for doing it by yourself. So
yeah.
shout out someone.
It's
No, I'm just kidding.
it's yeah, it's a long drive, but again,
Worth it.
you can see all the cavern advertisements in
Yeah,
Missouri.
Merrimack
But
Caverns.
yeah.
178 miles of cavern billboards.
But
Come
like you
on.
said, there's you kind of know what you're getting into then when you're on a
Yeah,
trip by yourself, and
yeah,
for some
and
people that's you need the companionship for it, and other
yeah.
people, like you said, if like for me, if I
Well,
had a good podcast or a good audiobook to listen to,
if you have the Fitness
or
Grand Pacer Test playlist that I made that has
yeah,
26 hours of music,
yeah,
I didn't hear a repeat. So
that's always.
I know I
I feel
said
like
31 hours, but I listened to other stuff too.
I feel like Spotify, like sometimes the
I got
shuffle
beef
is
with
great,
Spotify. Yeah, a little bit.
but other times it's like our collab playlist. It's like the
Yeah.
same 6 songs every time I go,
Yeah,
and
it's
there's
like
like
gorgeous
hours and
by
hours.
it's like gorgeous by Mitch.
It's like it's like
I don't understand.
there's so many others to choose from. I don't know. Maybe it's just the algorithm,
Yeah, maybe
doing its
it's just
dirty, but
it's picking the songs that we need to hear or something like that. But
yeah,
no, and we didn't want to get into music about this, but
you never know where it's going to take you. This
yeah,
podcast.
you seriously never know with that. But yeah, for me that trip was it was much needed, I guess. It kind of placed me back into the foundation that I needed to. Like I feel like I'm in a little bit of a better headspace going into this last semester.
I think it took
Um,
you a little bit after you got back though to
yeah,
get
I was
into that. Like
there
there's a
was
couple days. Like I'm not
I
calling
had
you
to
out,
no, you're
but
fine. No,
there's
yeah, I
like
know what it is.
there's a couple days where like you got back, you were reinvigorated, and then you like were down in the
Yeah,
dumps for
went
a
into a
couple
lull.
days.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that
there was like no rhyme or reason for it really. Like there obviously is always for me. There's always something going on with that, but that kind of
mhm.
just goes to show for anybody, like this outlet having a podcast serves to be one of my best ways to cope with the stuff I have going on in my life.
Good catch.
Whether it is like just talking about other stuff to distract me
Mhm.
from it and kind of like evade those feelings, or just talking about them bluntly. Like when we have certain topics, like a couple of weeks ago we had we talked about reciprocity, and like there's
Yeah,
obviously big stuff that has to go with that, and like kind of like time commitment, duality of change, and like these really funny episode
really.
names that we came
Yeah,
up with, just like the name of this podcast. Like, yeah, what were we thinking? But
there's
I don't know it.
there's like a. I've said this before, and I don't want to sound like a broken record. But
Shout out records.
you're this. It's this grounding thing, right? And
Yeah,
it's not saying it's your therapy, but it's a way to
it is.
get thoughts out there. Even
Oh,
when
I would I would classify it as my therapy,
okay,
to be honest with you. Like I think that this is what this is.
yeah,
So
you get an outlet, and no matter who listens to it, like whatever, but
yeah,
you can talk through some of the things that you're going through, and you realize what you want to be and where you
yeah,
need to what you need to do to move forward on it. And even though you've been getting things from other schools back and other things, it's a time in your life that there's a lot of uncertainty what you're doing next
yeah.
year. And I've been there, and I didn't get my first job out of school until September.
Mm-hmm.
I was working with my dad a little bit in the summer, but like it's scary, and coming
Yeah,
out of a pandemic, that's also scary. So
yeah,
I can imagine why people are still going back to school. And it's like I said, being able to talk through some of those things, even for me, if you're just talking to anyone about it, and if they're willing to like lend an ear, you're able to work through. A
yeah,
lot of times you can talk yourself out of what you're getting into. And for you, like I kind of gave you space on what was going on, and then all
yeah.
of a sudden you're like, I know what it is, and like you came to this like
Oh man, that
realization.
epiphany feeling. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, for those of you who know like that feeling. I'll just describe it to you. So you get misconceptions in your head about the reality that you think you want versus the reality that you need. And this is gonna get a little deep for what the time
Always
that we're
does when it's
recording
just
this.
us.
Yeah, it does. But I was caught up with the reality that I thought I wanted, right? The not the objects, but the things in my life that I thought that were important aren't to me. Like I know that, and I've been told that, and that's what I believe in. But I was masked and I was disguised to thinking that they were. because, innate feelings that we have, as us just being humans. The stuff that we want is not necessarily the stuff that we need in our lives. And I'm not saying it was an epiphany feeling, but it was a realization that um, I had to reprioritize the things in my life and what I needed.
Mhm.
And I think that's a powerful thing, because I'm almost positive we just got done either talking with, I think we just got done talking with my uncle, last week's episode. I think
Yep.
that was about the time. It was like the day after, something like
Yep.
that, just talking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
because of social media stuff. And unfortunately, it was also the day after the Packers lost the NFC Championship game. Kind of talking about that narrative as well. It sort of, as stupid as it sounds, it opened my eyes to a reality that I need, if that makes sense, not the one that I want.
You need to work towards.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
like I realize it, and it doesn't help too that I'm hearing back from certain schools that I would like to get into, and I feel comfortable disclosing this to our listeners, but everybody goes through that sense of failure, that sense of disappointment, right? Like the schools that I applied to for the PhD programs that I wanted are top tier schools. They are schools with these programs that are nationally and internationally renowned for what they do, and I want to be a part of that, and I still do. It just, however however the cards were dealt to me, that's just not what it needed to be at that time, and I've moved on from that. Like yesterday, I've heard back from 2 other schools. Like, yeah, it does do a little bit of, it decays from your confidence, right? You think that you can go out there and wake up and do anything, and then when you hear no and when you hear rejection, you second guess that. But there's bigger and better out there for you. You just got to be willing to take that chance and just accept the failures and move on. Because I think we talked, I don't know what episode this was, I think it was with Matt Donovan, but how you learn more from failures than you do successes, right?
Mhm.
Like, it might have been that, I don't know. We have a lot of good content with a bunch of different people on this, so it's one of those metaphors that, really bad word choice here, but regurgitates itself. But it was for me learning from my failures and learning who I can't be for myself because it's not healthy. Yeah. So I was a little long-winded, but just don't get caught up in the superficial stuff,
Yeah.
the shallow stuff. Like, just
Absolutely.
be who you are, authentic. And that's, my month late 2021 goal is work on that authenticity, because
It shows.
yeah, I
Like when
hope it does.
when we have guests on that are really passionate about what they're talking about, or
Yeah.
and you can tell, like, even if it's like my dad when he was washing cars and like detailing cars, like that was his thing, and and he was super authentic about that. He wanted to be really good at it and make the most of it. And I think the passion and authenticity really shine in your voice when, like, not just you, like, let's say we're talking about cancer biology and things like that.
Yeah.
Like if we have calls with like other, sponsors or whatever,
Big
like,
news, by the way.
it comes out. Or like the conversation that we had with Cassidy, like off the air, that was probably an episode in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like the passion that comes through your voice shows. And people realize that. And we were talking with someone, and it's like one person that's truly dedicated to what they're doing is better than 1,000 people that are like, like I'll support. Like, so like, if you're able to work on being genuine and authentic in what you do and everything, like that, it's not being transparent, but it's being transparent in a sense that you are honest and upfront about what you're doing, and making sure that authenticity shines. And before I say authenticity one more time,
well, I understand that, and I appreciate that. And for me, I've turned into quite frankly, I don't care about what, the external stuff anymore. There's another
EGAF,
word.
man.
There's that. And for some that will never happen, and it sucks because it's just, we're hardwired in our heads.
It's what we live in
that,
right now.
Yeah, we were just talking about this before we got on air. The difference between scrolling and following, right? Like we were just talking about.
Yeah, we literally just said that.
Like we get so caught up in social media. We talked about it, episode ago with my uncle, and like what he does. there's a difference, an innate difference, honestly, of scrolling and following, and we
Yep.
struggle with that too as a medium platform, right? We offer a podcast, a service where we want our, our opinions or other people's opinions and perspectives to be heard, right? And so there's a difference. We understand that, and we have to get over that. There's just scrolling and then following, like with everything. That's the case. Like,
Yeah.
I'm subscribed to certain people like on my social media feeds that I don't necessarily care to follow their lives. For some odd reason, I am just subscribed to them because it adds to my feed. It adds something that I want to see when I scroll. I'm working on that because that doesn't help with the feeling of the false reality that we seek. It kind of detracts from that idea of getting what we need rather than what we want. And so I don't know, it as stupid as it sounds, it was like a revelation. You just have to wake up and smell the coffee, right? And speaking of, I just drank stonk coffee. That's the soundbite of the episode.
we shied away from those. No, you're absolutely right. It's sometimes you just wake up and think, why am I,
like why am I so caught up in what other people care?
Like
who
cares?
Whatever. Yeah, like seriously,
who cares?
Like if we're being authentic, if we're being who we want to be or who we need to be for ourselves, IDGAF. That's all I'm gonna say. It's just a nice acronym for you can.
Yeah, the difference between scrollers and followers, I think,
huge.
I don't know if I've heard that. I don't know if I've heard that before, but like, I'd rather have a few dedicated, than we have this many followers. Like, but how many of those actually care? How many of those actually are like interacting with your stuff or consistent listeners? And like, it's. I get that everyone has, things to do and all that. And, but I think people get caught up in the numbers too often. And maybe we're a couple of years late for this because I've heard, stuff like this for a couple of years, but I think it
doesn't matter when it happens, as long as it happens, I guess that realization that you come to. But you're exactly right. Like, I don't want to jump the gun on anything, but we've had a really good conversation with people that we think very highly of in a program that we think very highly of, and we kind of heard this from them, and we're not reiterating it in a way that makes sense for us, but it was reassuring to hear that this message is not invalid. And I'm not saying validation is important either, because I mean it is, but it was validating for us. Like it made us reassured that, hey, we're going at it the right way, at least the right way that that we think it is. So
exactly. And everything takes time, right? I mean, you're not going to start something and be the top of what you do. And it's all about the consistency and showing up every week.
10,000 hours to master a skill.
Exactly.
And we're at like hour
5. Just kidding. We're at like 5 on our own discussions. So I kind of titled this before, and I hope that's okay, but new beginnings. And you talked about your trip to Oklahoma, and for me it was a new beginning, but for you it's also this beginning of your life after undergrad. But you're starting your last semester of undergrad. You got some interesting classes and a lot of things. Oh my
goodness.
This is your first week, right? Because I started a week
yesterday
before
was my first day. Yesterday was my first day, and my goodness, did it feel weird getting back to the swing of things. Like, I've been on campus for 2 months now since last semester, just doing research and all that sort of stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, it felt good being the only person like on campus doing stuff. Like, it felt like you paid all this money to have all these buildings to yourself. And like, granted, I only go into 2, my my residence hall and my academic building, but it was a small world feeling, I guess, for me. Like, I was able to realize that I'm not saying small in any sense of like the grand scheme of things, but like, I play a part in what I do here, and I'm happy for it, like my role here. And it's just another piece of the puzzle that is my life. And but the classes that I'm in this semester are quite hilarious because I'm a senior, last semester senior, and this is the first time I have not taken a biology course in my entire college career in a semester. But I'm in directed research, so I guess that counts, but it doesn't. Like, we had to set that class up. We had to make.
You don't have like a bio lecture or
no, like there's no something like that. But I'm in a class that I feel like this podcast will get the brute brute force of what I learn in it, and it's called music appreciation. And so far, from what I've learned from syllabus week and introductions, it's going to be understanding the who, what, when, where, and why music, especially classical music, has kind of initiated. And for me, classical music is something that I only turn on when I want to study. Like when I need to sit down, like lo-fi beats. I know it's not really classical, but like instrumental, acoustic, like all this sort of stuff. Like
Well, you like
that's
that Pop Goes Classical, right? That one?
yeah, that's a
Is that
great
playlist?
that's a great playlist
Yeah,
if
where it's like
anybody's
pop
interested. Like,
hits or like
well,
big hits.
we
And
honestly might put that
classical.
in like the description or something like that because
Yeah.
it's cool. Like I didn't make it obviously, but because I don't have the ability to find classical pop music on Spotify.
You don't
But
have that time either.
no, yeah, and so somebody else did it for me and us. But stuff like that, like I would have never taken a music appreciation class, in my life. Like, and it's something that I am passionate about because obviously we talk about music almost every episode. I don't know if we've mentioned anything in this one besides just now, but
Spotify. Yeah, we talked about it.
oh yeah,
The shuffle.
Okay, yeah, there you go. So it'll be different, and I think it's a good stepping stone because obviously I want to do PhD stuff and kind of rotations in labs, and so it's kind of a good transition period because, like, yeah, there's lecture and stuff like that in grad school, but it's not the same, I feel like, as undergrad from just hearing from your experience and my professors. So.
Well, and you have a lot of TAing and stuff to do, so it's
4 labs.
Not saying it'll be a break, but
yeah.
Not saying it'll be easy, but it'll be a break from what you're traditionally, It's like your
I'll
enlightenment class too that you took. It's just different.
Great, by the way. If anybody is ever hesitant about taking a philosophy class, I know they don't sound the most intriguing, but my goodness, does it teach you the most about yourself? And like, if you are struggling to figure out like where you sit politically or humanitarianly, if that's a word, I just made it up, maybe. Like stuff like that. Like if you're struggling to find out that location of where you sit, venture in a philosophy class. Like I know some of our listeners are in school now, may or may not have that opportunity, but I've taken 2 of them. I like the first one so much I took the second one. So
like for some people it might seem like a waste of money if you're spending all that money to be at a school, but I think it's useful to
no, and like
venture out.
It works for me because like I spend all this money to work in the lab, which I do on a constant basis. So it's a good change. It's like, breaking up the routine that we call life. So
I got bad news for you.
What's up?
Sabres and Islanders got postponed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Shout out Buffalo Sabres though for helping this podcast out with something really, really cool.
Yeah. That's funny. And you got your jersey and
oh man, that's a great time. And I got 2 hats coming.
Ooh. Yeah, now you want a bunch of different jerseys.
Oh my goodness. See, I've come to realize that we'll get into this little jersey stuff real quick. I'm in sports that I'm not so familiar with, hockey being the number one right now for me. I would much rather appreciate the sport at an individual player sense, like appreciating players and their skill rather than rooting for a singular team and kind of putting everybody else on, on a lower pedestal, right?
Yeah, like, especially if you're new to it.
Like, what you and I do with the NFL football. That's the National Football League football, so I don't know why I said that. But like we kind of put the Packers on our pedestal because that's who we enjoy watching and stuff like that. And like, don't get me wrong, I have players around the league that I like, but for hockey, like,
so
the Sabres are going to be my team because I don't know, I think they're cool logo, like nice organization. I like Buffalo, cool place, all sort of stuff. Never been. Somebody wants to, but I don't know. It's an easier sport for me to be like, hey, McDavid. Yeah. Oilers. I know I don't care for the Oilers, but I'll buy a jersey. Or
the nice thing about hockey is there's a lot of young superstars right now that and I think it's easier for like you who's newly 22. You're new to the sport. You're 22. You can kind of identify with those people. And I think I talked about when we asked like what makes you feel old when you're older than some of like the people. And it's nice that you're kind of coming into this fandom of hockey and you can kind of follow along as these superstars, take over the game. If it's like Matt Barzal or like you said, McDavid, Eichel, all these people, you can kind of see how the game transforms, and it's gotten progressively younger as the years have gone on, and it's gotten faster. Fighting is a less of a staple in the NHL, especially. And like I said, it'll be nice to see how these guys do at taking over a sport that has so much tradition embedded.
It's a big
into
undertaking,
it.
I bet, though. Like, it's
Yeah.
huge. Like, I mean, I don't know much about it, but I know Ovechkin is like one of the older guys, I guess, in the league. And like he's, obviously with the Washington Capitals winning the Stanley Cup, stuff like that. Like it's a big deal. But you have all these young guys coming up, these hungry young athletes that you and I were once a part of that culture. It's pretty cool to see. And I know all sporting, like almost sporting venues support that, right? The up and coming athlete and stuff. But it's really cool to see that, especially these, 17, 18, 19-year-old hockey players are given the opportunity and whatnot to become the star of that team. It's not something you see. I know, like you have a football example, Joe Burrow being the starting quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, number 1 draft pick kind of thing. Like you get that big event in sports where it's like, hey, this dude is, maybe a year older than I am, or not even. Like I don't even know his age. Like, and he's out here signing the max rookie deal, number 1 draft pick, like signing bonus stuff. Like puts you in perspective. Oh man, puts you in perspective.
Said it again.
Yeah,
cross that off the bingo.
Yeah. But
it does.
Authenticity, perspective, cool. You guys are playing along at home. You got
don't forget the free
there.
Space.
Oh yeah. So hey, you just need one more.
Yeah. The like I said, the nice thing about hockey is it's so different to you, and like the developmental leagues. The AHL, your comparison is AAA, right? And then there's ECHL, that's AA for lack of a better term. But like with Matt Donovan, you can play the USHL. It's like juniors, and I think Janesville might have a team either in that league or a similar league, and then you go to college after that. So like. And then there's a ton of different leagues, like junior leagues in Canada, like Ontario and the Western Hockey League and things like. It's just like, and it's a global game too. It's not just North America. Like there's so many leagues out there, and you see that with Matt Donovan. He's in Sweden now, and he loved it, and he's back there now because he's got an opportunity to play during this COVID season. But it's a totally different sport, and it's a fun one to get involved in. And like you said, it's fast. It's that you can feel the momentum change, and it doesn't have to just be in a frustrating game of chell. So,
oh man, I think with that we gotta go. Because if we talk about chell, the blood boils, because that game is something else. But
once again we got deep, right? It's just us.
We got always deep, the case.
But keep supporting us. I know we appreciate it. Like Austin said, check out the store. Your support helps us, get guests. It helps us improve quality of content and what you're seeing. So, we thank you guys. We'll see you next week, and keep liking and sharing.
Yeah, just look forward to some cool stuff coming your way from the Weekly Boost podcast. But thanks again for listening and watching too, because this one could make it on the YouTube.
It probably will.
Okay, well, there you go.
You'll see some coffee, but
yeah.
Bye.